Fueron personas muy especiales, ya que fueron las personas que nos prepararon el terreno para que nosotros tuviéramos una temporada o una carrera bien brillante.
Marvel and kind of tip my cap at what they were able to do in their careers, having to overcome those type of adversities.
Claro que sí, yo creo que son un orgullo dominicano porque, como te dije ahorita, que le están abriendo le abrieron la puerta.
Those days, I just have that inside of me that I want to be a baseball player. And I want my mother to listen to the radio when I was playing. And I used to tell her, you're going to be so proud to hear that Manico is doing well.
I remember back in 1948, the Brooklyn Dodgers, they came to play exhibition game in Santo Domingo.
A familiar figure returns to the Brooklyn Dodgers. While manager Leo DeRocher talks things over at Theodore Trujillo, our camera sneaks a close-up of Pistol Pete Reeser and base-stealing infielder Jackie Robinson.
I got to see Jackie Robinson play. It was an incredible baseball game for a youngster who wanted to someday play the game, beat somebody. We knew what was going on with Jackie Robinson to an extent. We knew the race problem. I remember a teacher told us that the only reason the Dodgers were having spring training is because Jackie Robinson, they want to keep him away from the problems in the South. But we heard the stories, but to us, that was really didn't have any relevance because, hey, I wasn't going to go play baseball in Florida or anywhere else.
Dictator Rafael Trujillo had invited the Dodgers to the island in 1948. Though not a fan of the game, Trujillo realized he could use baseball to make his regime more popular.
A big crowd and a familiar cast in the dugout are here as President Trujillo of the Dominican Republic throws out the ball.
It wasn't the first time that Trujillo used baseball as propaganda. In 1937, Trujillo hired Negro leaguer Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and Cool Papa Bell to win the Dominican Championship for the team bearing his name, the Ciudad Trujillo Dragones. But while the dictator only cared for baseball as a form of propaganda, his son, Ramfis, was a dedicated fanatico. When Ramfis was only 9 years old, Trujillo made him brigadier general in the armed forces. When Ramfis was older, he became commander of the Dominican Air Force. And the Air Force Baseball Club, Aviación, became the Playboy's personal fantasy league team. With the power to draft any young Dominican into the armed forces, Ramfis was able to force the best Dominican players to join the Air Force and play baseball. Among his recruits was Manuel Mota. Ramfis saw Mota playing in a Santo Domingo school game. The very next day, Mota received his draft notice. In 1955, Mota and the Air Force team traveled to Manzanillo, on the border with Haiti, to play the United Food Company team in a doubleheader.
In the first game in the morning, we faced skinny right-hander throwing underhand and sidearm.
The name of that right-hander? Juan Marichal.
He impressed the Air Force manager, supervisor.
He also impressed Ramfis Trujillo.
Next morning, I hear that knock in my door about 8 o'clock in the morning. I opened the door and I saw a lieutenant dressed, from military outfit. And he handed me a telegram. So when I read it, it said, report it right away to the Dominican Air Force. Signed, Rafael Trujillo, hijo. That means Ramfis. I left to go to Laguna Verde to see my mother and show her the telegram. She was mad. She was furious. Finally, she said to me, well, son, you can't say no to those people. They told me that I was going to play baseball and study, go to school. And when I got there, it was nothing but baseball.
Because we're soldiers. The only thing we have no guns. Yeah, we only play baseball.
He used to come watch the game. He used to come right behind no play. I don't want to do anything wrong or make any mistake when he was watching the game. I only lost 3 games in 14 months. We went back to Manzanillo and play a doubleheader. And you know we lost both games. Rafi don't believe in that. So he got every player to spend 5 days in jail. And the manager got 30 days, and Viruta Pichardo got 5 days.
I remember going into Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We were passing in uniform, maybe hoping that they would respect the uniform. They didn't let us in. There was a policeman that singled us out, said, "No, you, not you." That I understood perfectly. And we were made to go back to the dressing room, take off the uniform, and they put us with the black fans in left field. We watched the game like fans there with the blacks. They were trying to make it into a law that the black and white couldn't be on the same field. And they finally the law passed. I was shocked because we always looked up to the United States, to the America. The word democracy, it was big to us because we were living at that time under a dictatorship.
The Giants initially resisted, but finally opted to send Felipe out of Louisiana.
They shipped me to Cocoa, Florida. The bus ride took me 2.5 days. I more than once felt to continue on to Miami and come back to the Dominican Republic. But I thought about Horacio Martinez. Not so much my mom and dad. I didn't want to let him down. And I stayed. Thank God I stayed. But in that bus, and that ride back to Florida, almost 3 days, many times I felt like continuing on to come back home.
In Florida, Felipe showed signs of things to come, winning the league's batting championship. But he could not escape racism, on or off the field.
I had an incident happen to me in West Palm Beach. The white used to go inside the restaurant, have their dinner, and then bring us the food. So one night, the manager arrived in the parking lot on his way to the restaurant, and he saw the 4 blacks inside the station wagon. And he did not like that. He came to one of the windows, and he told us to get out. Get out. The 3 Americans got out, and I didn't get out. I refused to get out. 5 minutes later, a police car came to get me. When I said something in Spanish, then the officer stopped. I guess he was gonna, by force, get me out. So some of the kids saw what was happening, and they went in and they got the manager, and then the manager came out. The manager drove the station wagon with me inside and parked it across the street. I never got out. That was, I say, my first act of rebellion against racism. To me, the test of Louisiana and Florida, it brought out of me some things that I didn't know about me. I decided that I was going to be a baseball player when that stuff happened in Florida. I decided that I was going to go the entire road, and I was going to fight whoever or whatever to do so.
On September 26, 1956, after Felipe finished his first year in the minor leagues, Jose Virgil became the first Dominican to play in the major leagues.
Being a rookie, I remember very clear, my first at bat, I was actually shaking. I mean, my knee was shaking. It made me proud to being the first Dominican to play in the major leagues.
In San Francisco, the big city is big league for the first time, and a gala parade down Market Street bids the San Francisco Giants welcome as they open the season in their new home.
1958 is the year when the Giants moved from New York to California. I had a pretty good idea that I was going to make that club sooner or later. On the 6th of June of that year, I made the club. And the next day I played my first game. It was memorable. I got three hits and 4 at-bats.
Felipe joined the recently moved Giants, a team led by future Hall of Famers Willie Mays and Puerto Rican Orlando Cepeda.
Philip, to me, was one of the guys that I chose to like a great deal because he was such a quiet kid, never gave any trouble.
You know, I love to go out dancing and having a good time. And Felipe always stay in the room, checking the Bible. He was very serious about the game, you know. I mean, I was very serious. Juan was very serious. But he was incredible.
My first year I lived in Daly City with Orlando Cepeda and Ruben Gomez, my first year. Then the second year I lived in North Beach with the hippies. I didn't even know where I was moving. I went to living with the hippies there. Sometimes the team arrived at 4 o'clock in the morning and it was like 12 noon. Everybody was up. And I was one of the guys there on my way home. And that was beautiful. Then we moved from there. I found out that I was not the right place for a baseball player to live.
Ay, cara sucia, compra jabón, pa' que lave tu camisón. Mira, cara sucia, compra jabón, pa' que lave tu camisón.
Who's the best player of the Dominican Republic? Complete player. I would say Felipe Alou.
Back in the Dominican Republic, Horacio Martinez was busy signing the next wave of Dominican Giants, including Felipe's brothers, Mateo and Jesus, Manny Mota, and Juan Marichal.
They offered me $500. Man, I was so happy when I got that offer. So I tell them yes right away. I was the happiest man in earth when I knew that I was going out to go to United States to a different level.
Soon they were in the minor leagues, coping with American culture.
Horacio Martinez, he signed me as a pitcher. Why he signed me as a pitcher, I will never understand. 2 innings and I walked 14 or 16 batters, not because of my control problem, but because my nerves. I still am a very nervous person, but I was so nervous that I couldn't even throw strikes.
Marichal empezó en clase C, después había que ir a B, a A, AA, AAA, y ahí empezó y ganó más de 20 juegos. Creo que ganó 23. Y era como una anécdota, que en esa época estaba el Papa Juan 23. Y entonces las dos cosas las recordaban cada vez que lo mencionaban. Juan 23, Juan 23.
In July 1960, Juan Marichal made what might have been the greatest pitching debut in the history of Major League Baseball.
My first game in the Major League was the 19th of July, 1960. It was a night game. I remember exactly what was going around the bench on that after the 5th inning when they kept looking at the scoreboard and watching inning by innings that I was pitching a no-hitter. Nobody was saying anything. Nobody was talking on the bench. They knew, that I was pitching a no-hitter, and I knew it too. 8th inning, Clay Dalrymple came to the plate, and as a pitch hitter, and Tom Sheehan came up to the mound. Orlando translated to me, and he said, "Well, Tom Sheehan don't want you to throw this guy a fastball." I said, "Okay, let's go with the breaking ball then." And the first pitch I threw was a breaking ball, and I hit a single to center field.
first game, he threw a one-hitter against Philadelphia. And you can see right there that he was good. His way to be a Hall of Famer.
The newspaper, they were talking about Juan Marichal for a whole week. I got somebody to read it for me because I didn't know any English at that time.
You don't see the ball, you see his leg, now you see his arm come over, now you see the ball. Marichal, I'd call it a doctor of pitching.
Te dijo, ¿cómo se le va a batear a un individuo que levanta un pie, sube el guante, le da la espalda y le puede tirar uno? Eso dijo Mickey Mantle.
He's the best right-handed pitcher I've ever seen. Not only me, Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, Duke Snyder, Frank Robinson, they all say the same. He's the best right-handed pitcher that I've ever seen.
In 1960, with the addition of Juan Marichal and Matty Alou, the San Francisco Giants had more African American and Latino players than any other team in the major leagues.
As a rookie, the first thing you have to do, you have to carry on Orlando equipment, like record players. At that time, we don't have CDs, you know, we have the big, they call it long play. And we used to carry those boxes, you know, and that thing is heavy. But you can't refuse. You have to do it. As a rookie, you have to do that because otherwise you're going to have problem with Orlando.
You know, baseball may, you know, sure it had its personalities, but at that time it was spitting tobacco and arguing with people. I think when the Latins came into the game, it was, wow.
It was like a family when they came over.
You know, we were very close. Myself, Felipe, Jose Pagan.
We were more than friends, you know, we were like brothers.
We used to go together to eat, used to go together to the movies. We used to go shopping together.
Felipe and I with our compadre twice. You know, I baptized Felipe Lou, oldest daughter. He baptized my oldest, Rosie.
We knew that to some eyes that ring or that group was not well liked, but hey, it was Orlando Cepeda, Juan Marichal, De Alou, hey, Jose Pagan. They couldn't mess with that group. We come from places that nobody ever heard of. Now, we don't go to Harvard or the Ivy League schools.
It used to be white, black, and Latin. So we had to strike against us.
We came after the black because of the language barrier, because of different customs.
They pushed me around, you know. We go to the hotel and we can get in. We had to stay outside.
The clubhouse, even in San Francisco, was segregated.
It was very hard for me coming from Puerto Rico. I'm not used to that. The black people, the Afro-American, they're from here and they know, but to me it was very hard to get used to that.
We were really a people that were doing the best that we could possibly do under the circumstances.
Cincinnati, I was at second base and Joey J was pitching. Then you say, hey, Ana, Lani, vamos, mete línea, hey, come on, bring me in, whatever. So he said to me, speak English. You don't know how to speak? He said, yes, I know how to speak English. Kiss my ass.
In 1961, the Giants hired their former star Alvin Dark to manage the team. Dark was talented, but controversial.
He treated me with great deal of respect. That's the only thing I can say, but he was a winner, and he tried to win.
I love him. I love him. You know, he did a lot of things for us. But I understand that some of the players have some difficulty with him.
He was negative when he came with dealing with other ethnies, with other ethnic groups.
You know, he's coming from Louisiana, and when he played, you know, not too many blacks, not too many Latinos. So when it came to the Giants, so many Latinos going crazy in the dugout, you know, laughing, having fun, you know, young kids from Dominica, from Puerto Rico, he can comprehend what's going on.
I remember, never forget this, in Phoenix, Arizona, he had a meeting, and he said, well, I assume you guys don't speak Spanish when we are working.
I prefer for you don't speak Spanish in the clubhouse. I said, but why not?
There was some tough customer there. Orlando Cepeda was there.
I'm Puerto Rican, he's Dominican. I'm proud of being Puerto Rican. I'm proud of my language. They feel the same way. Why we can't speak our language? Well, because some of the players are complaining that they don't know what we're talking about. I said, listen, when I came to America, I didn't know what you were talking about, and I tried to learn.
I said, there's no way I'm going to talk English to Matty or Lou, my brother. No way, how? How could I explain that to my parents?
It's an insult to my Puerto Rican, to being Puerto Rican, for them to Dominican, and I know they feel the same way. I'm not gonna do it. I didn't do it.
The season might have been over in the United States, but it was just beginning in the Caribbean, where some of the best baseball played anywhere took place each winter.
They knew baseball very well. If you made bad plays out there, they start whistling. Whistling means, hey, you got to get out there and play. And just because you over here doesn't mean that you don't have to go out and play. So sometimes I played harder over there than I did in the States because I could shag a little bit at home.
It put more pressure on you down there than they do here, though, to win. So if you don't get off to a good start down there, you're gone. They send you home.
They could have Babe Ruth here. If he didn't hit the home runs quick, he's gone.
As the 1960s began, the Dominican Giants' dominance on the field was at its height. By contrast, the Dominican dictator Trujillo's hold on his nation was beginning to slip.
It was a regime of torture and death, and you had to keep your mouth shut. I believe the United States had at that time the power to unseat him, and he was allowed to tyrannize this country for 32 years. I lost friends and some relatives to the terror of the dictatorship.
Assassin's bullets put a bloody end to the 31-year dictatorship of Dominican strongman Rafael Trujillo.
He was killed in May 61, and the people that love freedom and liberty and democracy, that we were relieved. When Trujillo was killed, obviously, there was a vacuum of power. When something like that happens, you really don't know who's going to kill you, which side is going to shoot you. We were trying to play the Winter League during the general strike. And we were stuck, the Escogido Club was stuck in Santiago for 1 week, that we can come home with the same clothes. And then the league was over, they canceled the season.
I left Dominican Republic for spring training. I left my fiancée here in Dominican, and I can't concentrate. I was thinking about her all the time and thinking about the situation in my country. And I asked Alvin Dark, to give me permission to come to the Dominican Republic and get married and go back to spring training. So he did, he was very generous.
For the next few years, they would play baseball against a backdrop of political turmoil that came to a head when the United States intervened.
25,000 or 50,000 United States Marine came to the country.
Some of my friends of today, they tell me that they woke up one day and there was an aircraft carrier there, and there were some airplanes making some flights over, and all of a sudden there was some landing of soldiers.
Very, very, very tough for all the Dominicans, knowing that people was getting killed on the street. It wasn't easy. I
had to say that I resented the fact that troops from other countries. I'm not saying necessarily the American, but they have soldiers from other countries that at that time had dictatorship, and they were here in the Dominican telling me which way to go and which way to turn.
I was very scared about my family, about my friends, because it was killing people in the street, you know, right and left.
When the Giants come to town, it's bye, bye, baby. Every time the chips are down, it's bye, bye, baby.
Bueno, en esa época ningún dominicano dormía. Todos los dominicanos tenían sus raditos prendidos.
When the season started, I was at the top of my game and confidence-wise at the top of my career.
The Giants had an all-star team, 5 players. Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, Felipe Alou, Jim Davenport, and myself.
At D.C. Stadium in Washington, here's that rare game that draws all the superstars together at one time, including sports-minded President Kennedy, looking as eager as the most avid fan.
October 1962, and it's the second playoff series in the last 4 years for the National League.
1962, we ended up tied with the Dodgers, so we have to go through a 2 out of 3 playoff. Now I'm pitching the third game. We lost 4-2.
Head 4-2, but the Giants, counted out so often during the season, bounce back again. They have a rally rolling in the ninth.
They have all the pitchers ready on that team to save that 2 runs. For some reason, they left Stan Williams pitch to Orlando Cepeda and Willie McCovey.
Orlando Cepeda greets him with a fly to right field. A very unintentional walk forces Felipe Alou across, and the Giants lead.
We scored 4 runs on that innings. We end up winning the champion.
And now it's on to San Francisco and the World Series with the New York Yankees.
I remember going back to San Francisco. We can't bring the airplane to the gate because it was a mob. I think the whole San Francisco city was at the airport.
The day after winning the National League pennant, the Giants returned to San Francisco to begin the 1962 World Series against the New York Yankees, marking the first time Dominicans played in the Fall Classic.
Ya empezábamos a ver los primeros dominicanos en Serie Mundial.
After defeating the Dodgers in a 3-game playoff, right at Dodger Stadium, we had to play the next day a day game against the Yankees at Candlestick Park. We were really tired.
Playing against the Yankees, you know, everybody wanted to play either for the Yankees or against the Yankees, especially in the World Series.
Era un toque de queda, como dicen aquí. Todo el mundo yendo al juego, esto y que lo otro, comentarios por donde quiera que uno iba.
Mickey Mantle and Elston Howard of the Yankees seem confident. And so does Felipe Alou of the Giants as he warms up.
The Dominicans excelled throughout the series, with Felipe and Matty Alou making brilliant catches in the outfield. But by Game 3, the Giants found themselves down 2-1, with Juan taking the mound for Game 4.
Juan Marichal, high-kicking right-hander, will start for San Francisco. Whitey Ford, winner of the opener, will go for the Yankees.
I get to pitch the 4th game in New York. I think I was pitching the best game of my life. I strike out Mickey Mantle twice, and we were winning 2-0. going to the 5th inning. I was hitting. So Alvin Dark told the coach to give me the suicide squeeze sign. Tom Holler was coming from third, so I have to try to bunt that ball. And by trying, was the ball forward. The ball was going to hit my ankle. And I went down just to get that ball and put the bat on the ball. And instead of put the bat, I put my finger, my index finger, and the whole nail came off. And that was the end of 1962 for myself. We ended up winning that game. Chuck Hiller hit a grand slam.
A long drive deep to right field. Maris can't reach this one. It's gone. Davenport scores. Matty Alou scores.
The Yankees won Game 5, and the series returned to San Francisco. But rain delayed play for 3 days. When the series resumed in soggy Candlestick Park, Felipe and Orlando rallied the Giants.
Orlando Cepeda hammers the ball into deep right center. Mantle and Maris race for it. It's in between them for extra bases. And the Giants win 5-2. The series is tied at 3 victories each. And now the title rides on the final game. It's D-Day at Candlestick. 6 months of baseball now spirals to a climax in just one game. The tense struggle moves into the Yankee 5th without a serious scoring threat on either side. And that brings Tony Kubek to the plate with the bases loaded, nobody out. Kubek hit sharply to Pagan, and it's on to first for a double play, but Skowron scores to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead.
When they scored that run, I never forget telling Orlando Cepeda, I said, Orlando, you know, that run is going to be very difficult to overcome because the wind was blowing. It was like a gale blowing straight in from center field.
Matty Alou leads off for the Giants in the 9th. Beats out a drag bunt. With the score 1-0, he represents the tying run.
I made a perfect bunt. I make to first, and so I say, well, I did my job.
Matty Alou got on base. They tried to bunt Felipe Alou.
I was asked to bunt, and the ball, I had to believe that the wind really blew that bunt foul. It was such a strong wind blowing.
After one bunt attempt, Felipe Alou swings away. Boyer is relieved that he missed.
Alvin Dart let me swing the bat because Boyer was almost underneath my bat, and I fouled off the pitch. The third pitch, they threw a fastball up and in, and I struck out swinging. I really felt bad about that.
Ralph Terry also strikes out Chuck Hiller. Now Elston Howard goes out to talk to Terry, while the menacing Mays steps into the box.
Willie Mays came up to bat with Matty in first. He hit a ball to right field.
Mays hammers the ball down the right field line. Maris with expert fielding.
When the ball hit the ground and stuck there, and give Roger Maris the opportunity to come and grab the ball, throw it to Bobby Richardson, and Richardson threw it to home plate. It was a well-executed replay.
He threw the ball high speed, one hop to the catcher. And Matty Alou was being held at third base. He would have been out, no question about it.
A lot of people say, oh, no, Matty could have scored. Was no way.
The relay stops him. He has to go back to third while Mays continues to second with a double. And thus the tying and winning runs are in scoring position. Manager Houck talks to Ralph Terry. A tense situation where a base hit could change the picture.
Willie McCovey was the next batter.
Everybody thought they was going to walk McCovey because Orlando was next and was a right-handed pitcher on the mound.
He took the chance like a good gambler.
Does. Willie McCovey hits a tremendous curving drive to right. But it's a foul ball, and the fans groan. McCovey slashes away again. A sizzling line drive.
I never saw a ball hit so hard in my life.
Hit one of the hardest ball I ever seen, and Riot Richardson, who, by the way, was playing shallow right field. Playing second base at shallow right field. And that was the end of it.
The Yankees win 1-0 on a brilliant clutch effort by Ralph Terry, the hero of the 20th World Championship won by the New York Yankees.
It could have won either way, because if that ball was a little bit higher, I think it ended up in the ocean.
Could not believe we lost it, especially with a line drive like that.
Bueno, imagínate los seguidores de los Gigantes aparte y como dominicanos al fin se sintieron mal, ¿tú me entiendes?
When you played 7 games, 7 good games, like we did in 1962, you say, well, the best team won. And we have to give them credit to the Yankees.
Though the Dominican Giants had become one of baseball's best teams ever, they never returned to the World Series. And just 1 year later, at the end of the 1963 season, the Latin core of the Giants was torn apart. Back in the Dominican Republic, political turmoil continued to haunt the players. The Winter League season was canceled. Still, the Dominican government, realizing how baseball could lift the spirits of Dominicans, organized a 3-game goodwill exhibition against Cuban players. When Major League Commissioner Fort Frick learned of the series, he forbid Dominican and Cuban major leaguers from taking part. They played anyway, and Frick fined them. The fine so outraged Felipe that he wrote an article for Sport magazine recounting his experiences in baseball, from racism in the Deep South to the Fort Frick incident.
I was free-minded. I'm still that way. You can't change, and I said some things that the Giants didn't like. The commissioner of baseball didn't like. I didn't understand the power of the establishment at that particular time.
He speaks freely about what I think, and I believe that's one of the reasons why they got a great deal of respect for Felipe, because he did not hold back anything.
Everybody had to respect Felipe Lu. He was the leader of most of the Latin players.
I played for Alvin 2 years, and by the time the second year was over, I knew I was going to be traded. There was something that they didn't like that I said. There was no shouting, there was no argument, but it didn't go very well. The first meeting that they had in the winter of 1963, I was gone to the Milwaukee Braves.
To me, until these days, I don't know why. Because Felipe was the premier baseball player in National League.
It shocked me and it really hurt me. I missed the city, I missed Cepeda and Juan Marichal and my brothers. It was very difficult.
Sometimes you make mistakes, you know, and I think that was one of the biggest mistake that the Giants ever make.
It was the beginning of the end of the Dominican and Latin Giants. Following Felipe's trade, Jose Pagan, Mati Alou, and Orlando Cepeda, the baby bull, would all be traded away. As the Dominicans moved from team to team, they continued to excel, representing themselves and their country in all-star games and the World Series. Mati Alou won the batting championship, and Manny Mota set baseball's all-time pinch hit record, while Juan Marichal became the winningest pitcher of the 1960s. Despite his infamous fight with Joan Roseboro, he became the most admired Dominican star of the decade. During his career, he won 242 times and completed 241 games. In the 1970s, Juan, Manny, and the Alous retired to become coaches and scouts. A new generation of Dominicans took to the field. By the 1990s, they had made the island nation the Republic of Baseball, the best source of talent in the game today. Then, in 2003, Felipe's career would come full circle.
Please welcome Ray Durham, number 25, Barry Bonds. Ladies and gentlemen, today becomes the only man in the history of the San Francisco Giants to be here for an opener in uniform at Seal Stadium, Candlestick Park, and Pacific Bell Park, back with the Giants where he started. Since 40 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, the manager of the Giants, number 23, Felipe Alou.
I believe I have represented my country well, representing the Dominican baseball player. And not only that, representing baseball in general. Because when we put on a uniform, we are representing the game. I always felt that way.
Now joining Felipe on the pitcher's mound, please welcome Matty and Jesus Alou to throw out today's ceremonial first pitches.
I know there's still some time to go. I have some time left with the Giants, and I pray God that nothing happened that would destroy what we believe we have built up over the course of a lifetime. But I'm proud of representing the Dominican Republic.
In May 2005, the San Francisco Giants dedicated a statue of Juan Marichal. Felipe thanked his compadre Juan and said the statue represented all Dominican players and all Dominicans. That same day, Dominicans could be found playing throughout the majors. By opening day 2006, over 400 Dominicans have played Major League Baseball. By the time you're watching this, there will have been more. And Felipe, Manny, Juan, Ozzy, Mati, and Jesus personally coached or recruited many of them and served as heroes to them all.
Soy de Capua para el pueblo, que vamos llegando al pueblo, que vamos llegando al pueblo, que vamos llegando al pueblo. No queremos costaneros, que vamos llegando al pueblo, que vamos llegando al pueblo, que vamos llegando al pueblo. Considera el colorido.